guest today is a very informed person, a very resourceful person. And when I met him on one of these platforms where he was presenting, I told myself that it is very important that I have him on a sitting so that we get to chat a little bit on matters that are very important to us as young people. His name is Jackson Saya. Jackson Saya, welcome so much.
Thanks, Aguduru, for having me over.
Yeah, welcome so much. I would like you to introduce yourself because you have a very interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
So who do I talk to, you or them?
You can talk to me.
Okay. My name is Jackson Saya. My purpose in life is to work with people and organizations that are going through crucial transitions in a manner that ensures they do not lose their voice, their values, and their vision, and that they emerge on the other side to pursue a life that is punctuated with clarity, relevance, and application. So I do this through communication. I speak, I write, I coach, and I mentor, and I work on various human transformation projects as a learning and design expert. So basically, that's my calling and how I execute it.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us more about the transitions that you're talking about as human beings, the different transitions that we have as human beings,
Yes.
which you help people go through without losing their focus and vision. What are these transitions?
A crucial transition is any transition that is, the outcomes are important, but the process is uncertain. Which means you sense already that this is going to, whatever comes out of this transition is going to be important for me, either financially, relationally, spiritually, mentally. But then because you do not have all the tools and experience, you're in that transition with a lot of uncertainty. And that could be anything. It could be people moving from puberty into adult, into their 20s. It could be people moving, the 20s is called a period of quarter life crisis. It's a crisis because you're making all the important decisions in life and you don't have all the experience and all the resources. And then when you're moving into your 30s and into midlife crisis, when you're moving from campus and into the work market, that's a transition. When you're preparing for retirement, that's a transition. When you're trying to overcome a habit, that's a transition. When you are taking on a new entrepreneurship project, that's a transition. So I think in short, life is full of, it's a chain of important transitions. And if we do not have the right support and the correct information, it's likely we will either be trapped in our transitions or we will transition in a state of continuous panic. And it is as we transition with panic that we either compromise our values or we lose our voice or we totally lose our vision. And hence the need for various forms of support to make sure you go through your transitions, because at the end of a transition is a transformation. At the end of your 4 years in university is a transition. At the end of the 4 years, you entered as a high school graduate, you leave as an engineer. So the 4 years is a transition, and the end of it is a transformation, the new state of being you want to go to.
You are among the few people I've met who have a clearly defined sort of perception of who they are and what their purpose in life is. I'm interested to know what was the process for you to find out what your purpose in life was?
It was difficult, and it's partly why now I'm clear on what God has asked me to do on the face of the earth. So by nature, I'm a very thoughtful. I think a lot. It's nothing magical. This is how the makeup I was made with works. And as I went through life, you need to really go back to my beginning. In my first 5 years of life, 6 years of life, I had gone through 5 near-death experiences, very clear. When I say near-death, I don't mean I was near the road and a car just whizzed past. No, it's very near-death. I've fallen from the first story of our apartment. I've suffered 60%, 60-degree burns. Doctors have told my parents I will not survive, and they even advised I be taken up country because death was imminent. I've had my head burst open and had it stitched, and all those happened within a very short time. So intuitively, growing up as a young person, I felt I was preserved alive for something bigger. But then, of course, you know the way our systems here work, there's nobody clearly to hold your hand and guide you through that. And so you basically go through the process as everyone else does. But that awareness was always with me. And so as I journeyed on, went through school, by the grace of God, did very well in my school. But even what I studied in school vis-a-vis the hungers and longings I had in my heart, there was a mismatch. And so I had to go through a process where, and when I run my coaching, I run that process where it's called you meet you. Like, so for me, I'm called Sire, so it's Sire meet Sire. And I had very honest conversations with myself. What am I excited about? What am I passionate about? What do people seek me out for? And as I became more and more honest to that, and this is something happening intensely, especially in my teens and in my 20s, I had to begin zooming in and realize there were things I was good at, but I was never going to be great at. And so I had to give up on things I was good at and focus on things I'm going to be great at, and be able to challenge the definitions I had held about what success was. Okay, because previously for me success was good grades, success was going to be a good job and stuff, but then I had to really re-challenge those definitions of success. And then the third thing is I gave myself the permission to be different.
Wow.
Those coupled with what was clearly providence from God, then be able to begin shifting the narrative from me looking at myself purely from the lens of my degrees and my qualifications, to begin looking at myself through the lens of what contribution have I been put on the earth to do. And then that was now the place where I've been able to make these particular clarities.
Wow. That's very deep, huh? I mean, it's such a definitive process that you went through in finding out who exactly you are. A lot of young people go through difficulty in trying to find out what they were made to do.
Yes.
Everyone is trying to find what they were created to do here on earth. Why are they here? And as I was listening to you some time ago in a platform where we are addressing matters, purpose, there's a time you mentioned some 3 pillars,
Yes.
which one can use to get to know what their purpose in life is.
Yeah.
I would like you to take us through that.
Okay, so and I agree with you on one thing, that many young people struggle with purpose, but purpose is key. Purpose is like your navigator, it's your compass. Anything that gets you towards your purpose, you embrace, and anything that takes you away from your purpose, you discard. Purpose is key because your purpose converts what would otherwise be normal, random, everyday, routine, mundane tasks. Purpose takes those things and changes them into becoming more meaningful. Let me explain what that means. You see, if I told you to just take a goonie sack and begin putting soil into it, you look at me and think like, what's wrong with this guy? But if I told you the river not too far from where we are is going to burst, and there's going to be floods, and the reason we need to put soil in goonie bags is we need to quickly make a dike, everyone here will grab a gunny bag and we'll put in. So that's what purpose does. So purpose changes you from just thinking, I'm just going through a degree program, or I'm just going to class, and begin realizing, no, I am equipping myself to be the best kind of sword I should be. Understand? So purpose is important. When people go through life without purpose, then they don't extract as much meaning through the events they need to go through. But that already said, and we could say a little more about the purpose of purpose. How you find your purpose is, it is found at the intersection of 3 important things. You remember it with the Swahili word POA. P-O-A, that's an acronym. P meaning your passions, O meaning your opportunities, and A meaning your abilities. Let me just break them down a bit. Your passions are the things that drive you. To answer what your passion is, a few questions may be useful. One is, what are you angry? What are you dissatisfied about? You know, what do you see in society or in life that you're either angry, dissatisfied, you always feel something can be better. That's something you're passionate about. Passion is the thing that when you lose sleep at night, that thing that is within your mind, that's your passion. Passion is a thing which you could do even if you're not paid. If you're guaranteed success and and money was never an issue, that thing you'd want to do, that's probably your passion. And then abilities are of three categories. There are skills. These are things we have learned in school, we've gotten through training. There are talents which just came to us naturally, or maybe because we're in certain environments and we, by doing them, became very talented. But generally, talents come to us naturally. You can be taught to sing, so singing can become a skill, but there are people who just sing out of natural sheer talent. It's different, and with time, when you listen to singers, you can be able to tell this is a skilled one and this is a talent, true talent.
Yeah, sure.
It's a difference between watching Brazilians playing football and England playing football. The English are skilled, the Brazilians are just talented. They play with a smile, they're extremely interesting to watch. And then there is gifts. For those of us who belong to a faith dispensation, being a Christian, your gifts are things God through the Holy Spirit gives to those that are His. So those are three categories of things that you need to collectively think about. And then there's opportunities. Opportunities is simply nothing more but pains or needs or gaps in life for which people are looking for solutions, okay, and they're willing to pay for. And you'll be so amazed what pains and gaps and needs exist in life which people are trying to solve. And so where these three things intersect, where the opportunities, abilities, and passion intersect, that's where your purpose lies.
Wow.
Okay, something you have opportunity to do and they're able to do, that forms a job. Okay, where you have opportunity to do and you're passionate, that's a cause. Where you have ability and passion meeting, that's a hobby. But where you have all these three things meeting together and asking yourself all those sets of questions, that you're now beginning to move towards your purpose.
Wow, that's really amazing. I'm trying to look at all these three and how a parent who is keen with their children's behaviors around, how they can be able to tell what the purpose of their children is.
I'll begin. I want to give three things I think parents can do, but I want to begin by saying even those three things will not work until the mindset, the approach, that process shifts. Many parents I have dealt with in my counseling and coaching begin the journey of finding out what their children are at, not from a point as a quest for truth, but they begin it from maybe a quest for fame. They want their children famous or comfortable or luxury. They are not really thinking about their children being effective. Okay, and granted, especially in some the minority world where economic empowerment is a challenge, at times the economic considerations seem to overpower everything, and so parents would push their children into things that may seem economically viable or will open up economic opportunities for them, but are not aligned. And so any parent who wants to venture to knowing what their children's purpose is needs to begin that quest as a quest for truth, to know what's true about my child. You know, some parents want to live their unmet dreams through their children, and all those things muddy the waters. So once a parent comes and says, I just want to know what's true for my child, that makes the process easier. The three things I think any parent can do is ask themselves consistently, because they have an advantage over their children. The advantage is they've seen the child before the child had an awareness. So they've seen the child from cradle now to wherever the child is, teenage or young adult. So they've been able to see them over time. They've seen development of things, so they have that advantage. Three things they can be able to do is, number one, look at what over years has come easily and naturally to your child. What has come easily and naturally to your child, because that's way more in line with their gifting and their talent. So if, for instance, your boy has never drawn a single straight line, a child should never be told to do anything close to a building or a road or engineering. If every time they see an insect they're on top of the cupboard, they don't want to touch it, a child should be nowhere near to zoology. If they faint at the sight of blood, nothing in the medical sciences is them. But if this person is good at, has been the one who's opened up your radios and your computers and things like that, that's an engineer right there. In fact, I was once told that analogy, I'm not too sure it's true, but I was told how the Russians in the older days used to select children for various careers, is to take a group of boys and give them a ball. You just tell them go and play. So they go and play. And so as they would play, normally they would all go kick the ball. And then with time what would happen, you'd find a few of them hold the ball and say, no, wait, we need order here. Let's split up into teams, and the people just observing, and they automatically know these are going to be managers, these are going to be people who are going to be leaders. Yeah. And then the teams are organized and people begin playing. And as they're playing, naturally some child will be hurt or something. There'll be quite a big bunch that will continue playing, but then you'll find a few stopping to tend, trying to stop, whether it's bleeding or helping. They know these are the medical people, okay? And then as the game goes on, you notice a few get bored and they leave, but then you notice one of them comes back with something to sell. You know that's an entrepreneur, because he's already seen, my friends will get tired and angry like me. Yeah. So look at what has come easily and naturally to your child over the years. That's an area of giftedness that will form a good center for their purpose. A second clue that you want to look at is things they have been not only coming easy to them, but things that have been effective at. There's been result, there's been fruit, there's been impact. And for that to be true, if your children are still young, give them opportunities to try their hands at various things, and then look at what they've been fruitful and efficient at. If your child has been the one who's been organizing children together to give and stuff, and it's been very effective, that's a manager you have there. If there's one who's, when you live in with the siblings, the home is orderly and stuff, and there's been fruitfulness on that, that's something. That's things you want. So you want to look at what have they been fruitful at when they try. And then number 3, parents need to be able to begin looking at what have other parents or what have other people outside of the home, people who are unbiased, been able to see in their children. What have their children been commended about? What are their children sought out for? What are their children appraised for? Like when you come together for family gatherings, if your son is the one who's always called to be the MC, maybe he's good at communication. Okay? Now it's not these 3 things separate, it's actually these 3 things together. When you begin looking at them, and you're not looking at it snapshots, you're looking at, what you're looking at is a trend. From when my child has been young and has been growing, what's been true about him in these 3 things. And let me just put a ribbon on it. I began by saying they need to begin this with a quest for truth, and I think they need to end it thinking less about labels and thinking more about skills and impact. What I mean is this. Labels are things like engineer, doctor, computer scientist. That's a label. It's something that our mind processes very easily. But the future of work has less of labels, in fact has probably no labels, but has more of the question of what spaces do we want to impact for what people so that they can achieve which results. So after you've taken these 3 things, you begin looking, okay, these are the skill sets, these are the fruitfulness and the stuff. Where can my child be able to apply this for which people to produce which results? That would guide you to become more effective. You see, 12 years ago, before the first iPhone was released, there was nothing like, I want to be an influencer or a blogger. Those titles didn't exist, but now they do. People are making a whole ton of money and a living out of doing things like that. So the titles of the future have not yet been created, but they're going to be created by people who, by applying those 3-point criteria and targeting it to a particular market, will be able to create the next missions. And we can do that for our children.
Oh, amazing. Let's talk about parents and how they tend to disagree with their children when the children come and take a course like the parents didn't expect them to. For example, a parent wants their children to take a course like the common ones, engineering. They want to hear something that is common, become a doctor. They want them to become architects. They want them to become nurses. They want them to become something they are aware of. But then you find, today we have many things, as you're saying, influencers, which is something people are even doing for a living. What is your advice to parents who tend to disagree with the children when they come with courses that are a bit strange to them?
We could say quite a lot on that, but let me see a few things to be able to put across. Number 1 is, any conversation like that is a difficult conversation. Difficult because the 2 parties need to, the stakes of the conversation are very high, but the outcome is uncertain. The parent wants to have his way, the child wants to have his way. So it's a very difficult conversation because the stakes are high, the outcome is uncertain. And many of us mismanage difficult conversations. So one of the first things, actually, way before we even talk about the subject matter of careers in that, is both parents and children need to develop the skill to handle difficult conversation. That's a whole 3 videos on its own about just handling difficult conversations, because from experience I've realized half or even more of the problem is not even the concern. It is just how you manage that particular conversation. That's number one. And then number 2 is to realize the reality that flyovers, whether it's a flyover over an ocean or a flyover over a road, are not built from the point we want to fly over. Flyovers are built from a distance. Okay? So there's a way we can view careers as parents. Often we view our careers at the moment of the thing we want to fly over. And often what we want to fly our children to fly over is the immediate, I want them to get a job, I want them to get married and stuff. But then you need to begin thinking and being more attuned to what the future looks like. And if we are preparing our children today for the future, we need to realize we're building a flyover. And so it needs to begin a bit behind. So all that to mean, parents need to begin becoming more attuned to what the future is. And the truth is this, the future is not more of the present. It's not. And we as parents need to accept the reality that at times the way we see the future is nothing more but multiplied present. So we need to get good information. We need to study the future of work. We need to study about the future of learning. We need to begin seeing what is IT going to do and begin positioning our children like flyovers for that future today. Okay, which is not doing more of the present. And partly is for children to be able to be happy to understand that when their parents are disagreeing with them, it is not out of malice, it is out of concern. Okay? And then that when both of them sit on the table, there are things the children know about the current, there are things the parents know from experience. And therefore it should become a conversation and not an ultimatum. Parents should understand this. They may succeed in putting a child through a career that may even get the child money. But if it is not aligned with the child's abilities, the child will not become outstanding. And people are not paid top dollar, if that's what you're looking for. People are not paid top dollar for mediocre work. People are paid top dollar for being outstanding. People go places because they're outstanding. And we therefore need to, with that recognition, see, is my child designed, for instance, to be a chef? If my child is an outstanding chef, he could cook for the head of state. But if my child is a mediocre doctor, they'll just probably be in some rural place and make it that way. So you need to ask yourself at times the question, do I want an outstanding chef who makes meaning and impact, or do I want just an okay doctor who goes on through life? I think somewhere in the intersection of those three, managing difficult conversation, thinking of our careers more as a flyover as opposed to just a quick jump, and then the understanding that it is not malice, but it's a cross-fertilization of ideas. When we put those three things together, we can be able to chart a path that makes sense, both as parents and as children.
Wow, amazing. Maybe talk of advice you can give to students who are finishing campus about the expectations when they finish school. Some really expect to get out and become big in a really short span of time, but many have not come to respect that it takes time to get to a top position, maybe in an organization. What advice would you give to young minds, especially when it comes to respecting the process?
I'll just give them one piece of advice. Anything that is worth having is built, it's not bought. Anything worth having is built, it's not bought. Economies that we look at today and are admiring were not bought, they were built. Okay? Homes that we like, families that we like are not bought, they're built. It happens across through life. So if you're going to graduate today, for you to be able to have that stable, outstanding career, it's going to be built. And building takes time. And at times the process of building does not begin by going up, it first begins by digging down. And so be ready, be willing to be able to do that. However, start somewhere, start small, but for crying out loud, start. Okay? Don't sit waiting for that big breakthrough. The big breakthrough will come as you do the small thing. The reality is, in your sector, you may be having new and fresh ideas, but no one knows you. It is only as you put yourself out there through simple, humble beginnings, beginning to do the work that lies closest to hand as faithfully as you can, the people begin to pick that potential, and then you're able to be given extended platforms to be able to do what is more meaningful. So do not neglect humble beginnings, do not neglect process, because product is the tail end of process. So young people should not be too keen on product. If they are focused on process, the product will be delivered. But just remember that one key mantra: anything worth having is not bought, it's built.
I think that's a good note to end to end the program on. Maybe if you have any advice, you can look to the camera and advise young people on anything you would like to, maybe Martha's career, or anything you'd just like to give them as a piece of advice.
In this age of social media, as we try to discover our purpose, many individuals have bought into the myth of the self-made person or the overnight self-made person. That's not true. The best way to know and prepare for the road ahead is to ask people who've come back from it. That means for you to nail your purpose, for you to nail on your career, you need to be able to sit with people who've gone way ahead of you in the journey you want to go to, and sit and dialogue with them. You will need, for you to become outstanding, you will need to be well skilled, you'll need to be determined, but you will need coaching and support. So you need the actual humility, both as a parent and as a young person. You will need that humility to be able to seek those three things: skills, support, and more importantly, you may need coaching. God bless you as you pursue your journey.
Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us.
Thank you for having me over, and looking forward to more conversation.
Definitely looking forward to more conversations with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. We thank you for spending your time, taking a bit of your time to watch the program. And please ensure to subscribe to this channel so that you get notified whenever we have a new video on our channel. Thanks, and bye-bye.